Okay, so I am recording now. Henry, just let me know when you want me to change the slide. So over to you. Good evening, everybody, by the way. Over to you.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I am Henry, and today I'm going to lead this class on a journey of product discovery. The next slide, please. So, what is product discovery? Product discovery refers to the activities required to determine if and why a product should be developed. Carrying out this work makes it more likely to create a product users actually want and need. So before the product discovery process and before the agile way of working, a lot of products were in the markets that were failures on arrival because people did not even understand, did not want them and they don't understand how to use them. But then with the introduction of the agile way of working in 2001, a lot of emphasis is now placed on product discovery. Um, but that's refers to understanding the users, looking for what the users actually want and need. So the product discovery process has two distinct parts. It includes developing a profound understanding of customers, then using that knowledge to build vital products for customers. As that means we need to study our end users and then develop a product that these users actually want. So if you imagine now, if we are creating a dating app, for example, and we create a dating app that is just that's going to be used just on computers, doesn't have a mobile application, it's not it's that's product is not going to be accepted by the demographic of people that really needs it, because people that really need that product are the young ones, and the young ones most likely are going to go with the mobile version and not the computer-based version. That's the reason why Instagram is very successful, because it's a mobile app. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. So in order for you to carry out a product discovery, you need to understand your target users, like your target audience, and know what they actually need. And to do that, you need to empathize with them. You have to learn. You have to study them. We have to learn and see what's actually they want. We have to define them. Like during the course of this class, we created personas, and then we usually tag them and try to understand them. Then when after we've done that, we need to ideate. We need to brainstorm um, with this target audience to find out if what we are creating is actually what they actually want. Then we prototype. So in creating a prototype, this is very inexpensive. It could be a pencil drop or a computer design, which means we are carrying our audience along. We are carrying our users along in the product discovery phase, which is very important, because if we carry them along, we are going to create a product that people actually want. At the end of it, we test. Then we can also go back and just go through this process again. Next slide. Okay. Just jump to the next slide, please. So product discovery is a team sport. What does that mean? It means everyone should be carried along. The development people, the marketing team, HRO, and even the all stakeholders must be carried along. And we've come to realize that when everyone is carried along, we tend to produce better products. Product discovery plays a key role in helping the development team decide which feature to prioritize and build, while setting up the stage for achieving product excellence. That means when the team is planning, they know the product, they know the features to put on top of their backlog, because they know that this feature is actually very important to the target audience. Next slide. Okay. So this slide also it's just going ahead now to buttress my earlier point, which says that everyone should be carried along, because every part of the team, all stakeholders is carried along during the product discovery process. We tend to produce product that is actually in high demand, because everyone's input is in that product discovery process. And also, if the team is involved in product discovery, it helps them to actually understand what the customers want, and then they won't end up producing or delivering a product that is far from the expectation of the customers. Thank you. Next slide, please. So why is product discovery important? Cultivating a deeper understanding of customers help product team. When I mean product team, it means the development team, business, marketing, everyone together. It helps the product team create products that customers want and need. The process enables team to move beyond nice to have features, in quotes, and nice to have features and products towards building products that solves a problem and become a genuine necessity for customers. So it means we, if everyone is involved, we all have a deeper understanding and move from just regular features to to creating a product that solves a problem for the customers. Next slide. Okay, so this is the introduction of the iPhone. Steve Jobs, then, who was the CEO of Apple. Before then, a lot of people were using BlackBerry phones, were using Motorola, Sony Ericssons, and all that. But lots of the customers complained that this keypad was a nuisance to them. They didn't really like the fact that the screen was so small, so they couldn't send their emails. Sometimes the keypads will malfunction. Maybe one key is not working, so you have to go fix it and all that. So Apple, before they introduced the iPhone, they had this discovery process to really understand what do customers actually want at this time, and they came up with the iPhone. So in the iPhone, you all agree with me that the iPhone has been a hit since it was introduced into the market, because actually the iPhone was the first phone without a keypad. And now there's no phone. I don't think there's any phone in the market that has a keypad, because if you come up with that feature now, no one is going to buy your product. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so the Windows 98 was a very successful software, but Microsoft decided to take it a step further and introduce Windows Me in 2000, in the year 2000. This Windows Me was a huge flop. It flopped because they went with nice to have features. They didn't go with features that the customers actually want, because there was no product discovery process. They didn't go out. They didn't solicit the input from these end users. All they did was to create a feature, a software that looked so beautiful, that was so bogus, but the end users found it so difficult to use. So at the end of the day, Windows Me was dead on arrival. So next slide. In 2001, the Agile Manifesto was released and provided a much needed alternative to slow, often imprecise documentation-driven product development. The Agile approach was revolutionary because it encouraged the development team to develop in much smaller batches, in much smaller batch size. Ultimately, this trained them to build products that customers could then use. Around this time, user experience design and design thinking were gaining momentum, refocusing product development on customers rather than internal business stakeholders, and prompting product team to ask a bold new question: what do customers actually want? This customer-centric approach to product discovery formed the core of the product discovery process. So with the introduction of Agile in 2001, we the developers and this business and everyone in the product team decided so at this point that we need to carry the customers along, because with the introduction of Agile, initially it was more of product development. But why would you spend so much time developing a product that customers do not need?
Mhm.
So they started to look in a different direction. Like, okay, why don't we solicit the inputs of these customers? That's when they introduced what they call this stuff. They introduced feedbacks from customers to really understand what customers actually want, and that feedback really helps the production team. Next slide. So why most of us would think product discovery involves it's just about new products in the and that is being introduced. It's not actually about new products. Um, Already existing products can also go through the product discovery stage because the product can redefine itself from time to time because customers' needs and customers' expectations can change from time to time. So even though a product is very successful at this moment, that does not mean that we cannot go through the product discovery phase to really rebuild these products to make it better and easy. Okay, at the beginning of this class, we studied the Kodak story. The Kodak film was very successful, but from time to time, that product needs to be updated because customers were actually moving from that paper photography to digital. So if they had solicited the input of the stakeholders, Kodak could have been a more successful company today. Next slide. Okay, so this is not a digital product, but I'm just trying to use this as an example of why an already successful products can be reinvented. Coca-Cola has been in the shelf since 1886. It's a very successful brand, one of the most successful brands in the world. But then they realized that people are beginning to move from taking so much sugar to going for products that are diet-free with zero sugar and all that. So Coca-Cola thought like, if we don't create a product that will capture this market, we are going to lose a lot of our customers. So they went ahead to produce other products that even if you don't want the original Coke, you want to you want the diet Coke or you want the 0 calories, or so. This is an example of why we even a successful product can be reinvented along what customers want. So keys to a successful product. Next slide. Keys to a successful product discovery: you have to customer empathy. You have to listen to them, listen to your customer. Visual mapping. Use all tools at in your disposal to really solicit from what the customers actually want. Then you test your assumption. Next slide. So that's the end of my lecture today. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, please, I'll be glad to answer your questions. Thank you.
That was a fantastic presentation. Round of applause for Henry, please. That was a fantastic presentation. Honestly, great content. Really, really great content. Yes, great content. And I'm definitely going to collate everybody's slides to send to everybody. Do you see what I mean? Because these are things that can help you in real life situations. Fantastic content. I love the flow. I love the way you talked about the fact that a product evolves. A product evolves. And that is why the discovery is important. And you need to continuously get feedback from the customer. I absolutely love that. Any questions from anybody else or comments? That was great.
That was really good.
It was the content was fabulous for product discovery. And you see that empathizing, prototyping, all those steps that you follow is like part of design thinking also. They help you really elaborate. They help you work towards definition of ready. Okay, they help you ensure you capture the needs of the customers, like you have rightly said. Fantastic. The only other thing I will say about your slide is make your presentations easy on yourself and make it easy on your audience. If there were slides where you use too much text, it was too much even for you to quickly decipher what is what. And that is you punishing yourself. If you design your slides like that, you are punishing yourself, and you are also not helping the audience to follow the slides easily. Always try and space things out with bullet points as much as possible. And sometimes use pictures. As you can see from my slides, I use pictures a lot because when you are, especially when you are working remotely like this, you want to minimize that reading as much as possible. Where you need to put some text, space it out. Instead of loading one slide with so much text, space it out over 2 slides and use bullet points. And use pictures that will also trigger what you want to say to you. I like that. For example, the Coca-Cola pictures you showed us, that picture, just looking at that picture, you know what you want to tell us. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
looking at that picture, you know exactly what you want to communicate. You want to communicate the fact that you don't have to stick to one product. You can run out of business if you do that. The environment is changing. People want low calories. The picture was telling the story. So as much as possible, this is what I want to encourage you to do. Use pictures that helps you communicate what instead of text, where you can. There are times when you need text, but if you can minimize that, that would be fantastic. Other than that, that was great content. Great content. So I'll share it
Thank
here.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Who wants to go next? Franca, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Are you happy to go next?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so let me bring up that is role of a Scrum Master.
Yeah.
Role of a Scrum Master. Share again. Great content. I'm sharing it now, Franca. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, when you're ready.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'm going to go through what we were learning the role of a Scrum Master, the role of the Scrum Master. Mary, next slide. Got here in front of you like just a pictorial that shows in summary the role of the Scrum Master. And we'll be going through all this. I mean, by the end of this presentation, you would have seen that what the Scrum Master does is to encourage, to help on the dev teams to facilitate their work, to help them facilitate what they need to do, to help them reflect, to reward, to protect, to learn and to share. To learn and share is agile knowledge, agility, and help the team to come on board. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start here. The Scrum Master is the team role responsible for ensuring that the development team leads agile values and principles, and that they follow the practices that the team agreed they will use. For the team normally, because we have the dev team, a Scrum team coming up together, they would have gone through processes where we have the norming, forming, and all these practices that would have been agreed during the norming and the forming stages. So the Scrum Master coaches the rest of the team through the Scrum framework, and he helps eliminate anything that is slowing them down. That is, if there's any obstacles during the sprint reviews, sprint meetings, sprint planning, or actually in delivering the work that they need to do, it clears the obstacles, and it clears all the impediments, and it protects the team from the outside interruptions and distractions, from stakeholders, from business processes. It clears up the obstacles and do as much as possible to protect the team. The Scrum Master generally does not have any actual authority. It is from a position of influence, and it's usually taking the Scrum Master, he or she will always take a servant leadership stance. That's because he has no authority over anybody. The Scrum Master is not there to give orders. He's there to protect the team. He's there to guide the team. He's there to help them to understand the agile principles, agile mindset. So he's there to help them live the agile value. So next slide, please. So the Scrum Master encourages self-organization of the dev team. The Scrum Master clears obstacles for the dev team. The Scrum Master helps establish an environment where the team can be effective. That is by protecting the team, by clearing any impediments, by warding off unnecessary interference in the team delivery. And he helps them to establish a good relationship between the team and the product owner, as well as outsiders from the team. That is, when I said it, well, this one goes back to the fact that he protects the team. And by protecting them, he ensures that they have a good relationship with the product owner. So he protects the team from outside interruptions and distractions, and he encourages team dynamic. Next slide, please. So the Scrum Master actually operates on 3 levels. So he's the the binding factor for the organization, the product owner, and the dev team. Next slide. So like the Scrum Master, like the binding factor, so he has a service to the product owner, he has a service to the organization, he has a service to the dev team. So here we have what the Scrum Master does to the product owner. The Scrum Master serves the product owner in several ways. That is including ensuring that goals, scope, and product domain are understood by everyone on the Scrum team as well as possible. Because the product owner needs to make, the product owner prioritizes what he wants to be delivered. He prioritizes the product backlog. And so the Scrum Master ensures that, okay, the domain are understood by everyone on the Scrum team. And he also helps the product owner in finding techniques for effective product backlog management, because quite so often we have product owners that are not very conversant with the Agile framework. They're not very conversant with the way product backlog operates, especially when it comes to product backlog planning. So it helps the Scrum team understand the need for clear and concise product backlog item. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, so the Scrum Master also, one of what he does for the product owner is understanding product planning in empirical environments, ensuring the product owner knows how to arrange the product backlog to maximize value. So this is where he also, in a way, impacts his agile knowledge to the product owner. Because when you, a Scrum Master in an environment that is still transitioning, the product owner might, well, they're just necessarily coming from the mindset of like, this is how we do our project. So it's the Scrum Master helps the project owner to understand this is how you to understand that arranging the product backlog to maximize value, and then understand it the way that Agile works. Helps them, encourage them with the Agile mindset. So he helps the product owner to understand and practice agility. And then the Scrum Master. Next slide. Next, yeah, okay, so Scrum Master service to the dev team. The Scrum Master serves the dev team in different ways. I identified earlier, one of the things he does is he coaches the dev team in self-organization and cross-functionality. Cross-functionality means like the essence of Agile is that we have a T-shaped team whereby everything can be done within the Agile, within the dev team. So, and there is knowledge sharing, and there is knowledge base and knowledge. There is a way that if one person is not available, the other member of the team can actually take on whatever task that they had, and it can be completed. So the whole team is responsible for the delivery rather than an individual. And for that reason, having a T-shaped team is extremely important. So it coaches the dev team in self-organization and cross-functionality. So it's not his duty to train them, but it coaches them. So the dev team, the Scrum Master also helps the dev team to create high-value products. Next slide. And like I said earlier, the Scrum Master removes the impediment to dev team progress. So when there is any issue that is boggling the progress of a backlog product or a backlog item, the dev team do not communicate directly with the product owner. They communicate with the Scrum Master so that he can then liaise with the product owner and with this others business stakeholders, and that way he protects the team in a way that they don't get interference. It shields them from unnecessary interference. And then the Scrum Master facilitates Scrum events as requested or as needed. Another service for the Scrum Master to the dev team is it coaches the dev team in organizational environments in which Scrum is not yet fully adopted and understood. Next slide. So, like you said, the Scrum Master is like a binding factor that with a service to the organization, service to the product owner, to the dev team, and to the organization. So, what are the services it has to the organization? The Scrum Master serves the organization in several ways, leading and coaching the organization in its Scrum adoption, planning Scrum implementations within the organization. The Scrum Master helps employees and stakeholders understand and enact Scrum and empirical product development. Scrum Master is also tasked with causing change that increases the productivity of the Scrum team. And the Scrum Master starts with working with other Scrum Masters to increase the effectiveness of the application of Scrum in the organization. Next slide, please. So I have here a visual. I am your Scrum Master, and what do? Encourage, reflect, reward, facilitate, improve, and protect. So encourage is like he encourages the team. He facilitates Scrum within both the team, the organization. Facilitate is a service that the Scrum Master does to both the team, the product owner, and the organization. Improve. It promotes continuous improvement methods, and it commits to continued Scrum on Agile values. So it protects the team and it rewards, well, the team, the actual organization and the team gets rewarded and relate. Next slide, please. So, questions, anyone? In excellence, the Scrum Master has this, is like I said, binds everyone together, and that is what he does to the organization, to the product owner, and to the dev team. Any questions?
Question. I have a question. Yeah. I was going to ask you.
Great. Let's first give a round of applause, please. That was great content right there. That was great content. So, any questions from anyone?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Just like Mary said, the great presentation, the use of visuals and what have you really helped. I wanted to ask her, how does a Scrum Master reward a team? That seems to be a bit new to me. How does he reward a team? And on what basis does he reward a team?
So rewarding a team is because he protects the team from the outside interruptions, and because the team becomes self-sufficient, self-organizing, the team's dynamics. So he encourages their dynamics, and when he does that, they're able to deliver on time, and that to them is like a reward, because it's not like he physically gives reward in the physical sense of it. But the team, like, when you get things done and you have this, you have like your own
self-fulfillment.
Self-fulfillment, that's the word. You have your own self-fulfillment, and then because you know that, so you feel rewarded because you know you are delivering on time, and the company is also feeling like, okay, we are getting good value from the dev team. And so that is how you've talked about the rewards. It's not
that like is one way to look at it. That is one way to look at it. Because you see, what used to happen was developers would develop stuff, customers will not use them. It wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't like they were purposefully engaged. So it is rewarding to work in this kind of environment, and the Scrum Master helps them achieve that. That is one. Secondly, the Scrum Master also helps them to celebrate their success. To celebrate their success. So as a Scrum Master, you can lobby for, eating out once a month. Things like that. You can lobby for, it's Christmas time, the team has done very well. How can we celebrate them? That kind of reward is what we're talking about here. So making reward that energizes them even further. Reward that makes them feel, this is a great place to work. We are gelling as a team. We are going out together. We are enjoying ourselves. Because remember, if the team are going to go out to eat, it costs money. and that has to go on the budget of the department. You understand? So those kind of rewards, not reward in terms of human resource, that kind of level of reward. Because when we talk about reward, remember we were talking about incentivizing. We need to be careful that when we reward teams, we are rewarding them as a team, not as individuals. So the HR movement, human resource, even though I don't like using that word anymore, but just so we know what I'm talking about, there's a movement called Agile People now. They are trying to stop saying human resource and say Agile People. What they are trying to promote here is this whole idea of performance management. We are saying, again, it now takes us back to DevOps and that wall of confusion. You are saying you want a team to work together. You want them to win together. You want them to fail together. But you are still doing performance management for individuals. So some movements are trying to get organizations to stop doing performance management for individuals and to concentrate on the team. So it's that kind of reward. So I hope, Mr. T, that answers your question.
Yeah, and then can I just add,
yes.
I mean, using a real life example, I work in an organization that's only just transitioning into Agile in the last 2 years. And they're struggling with the reward because normally what they do is individual appraisals.
Yes.
And people, I mean, even team members are now, some people within a team are complaining that, oh, our work is not being rewarded. How are you going to, because we are now like evaluating us as a team. But in the team, some people, you understand, so there's still that individuality.
Yeah.
And I know that a few times that the Scrum Master have had to step in that, no, this is a team. So the team's achievement is shared by all. Likewise, the team failures. So everybody comes on board to say, okay, this person is not there. What can we do to make sure that the team delivers?
Yes.
So you build that spirit.
Yeah. I have a few questions, if you don't mind, or one correction. And it is that you came across as though it was only the Scrum Master that removes the impediment. The answer to that is no.
Okay.
It is better to use the word facilitates the removal of impediments, in which case it could also be the team that is removing the impediment. Because remember, as a Scrum Master, you are trying to facilitate the team towards autonomy, self-reliance, self-managing, self-directing. So as much as possible, you step back and let them do some things by themselves. When they are now struggling, or if you think it's going to interfere with their sprint, then you may now step in. But as a Scrum Master, please don't go there and try to remove every single impediment. Otherwise, your team will not go. That is one. Two, the Scrum Master is not a middleman. In a Scrum team, a developer should be able to talk directly to a product owner. Okay? It is the outside stakeholders that we try to keep at bay from coming to give development team work directly, in which case we educate them. As Scrum Masters, we educate them to go and talk to the product owner and come through the backlog, okay? So I think that is what I had down. And then one thing I would have loved to see, even though you mentioned it a little bit, you said the Scrum Masters work with other Scrum Masters. Another thing they do together is they form a community of practice. That was missing. They form a community of practice. And this community of practice for Scrum Masters, they will now have a cadence. Maybe they are meeting every month or every other month, so that a Scrum Master in one department can come and share his own ideas with a Scrum Master in another department. They can share best practice. They can share what is working or what is not working. They can learn from each other. For example, maybe there's a Scrum Master that has never done value stream before. When they come to the community of practice, they can say, oh dear, I've never done value stream mapping before. I have an idea of what it is. I understand it, but I've never actually done one before. And they will bring this need. They will bring this need to the community of practice meeting to say, in 4 weeks' time, I need to do it. Can somebody please just take me through it? Or can we book time? Maybe that meeting, there will not be enough time for them during the community of practice meeting. So maybe they will now book a session. Okay, I'll just say, Sylvia, don't worry. Let's book a session next week. I'll teach you how to facilitate a value stream mapping. Again, community of practice is about continuous improvement. We as Scrum Masters, we continuously improve. We as Agile coaches, we continuously improve. We also have a community of practice for Agile coaches. We have community of practice for product owner, because the learning is endless. Like Henry said in his presentation, Product is constantly evolving. Market is constantly evolving. We have to keep exploring and learning. And there's no way you can know everything. As much as we have covered in this course, there's still a lot you need to learn. Exactly. So, but the point is, you are at a level now where you can go and research on your own. And when you go and research on your own, because of the level of coverage we have had, you will be all right. Because now that is where we are now. We're at a level now where we need to take initiative on our own. Okay. So Franca, thank you so much. That was great content. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Anyone has any question?
I was just going to say that in an organization where you have different Scrum Masters, that means that the organization is practicing scaling. Is that
yes,
it?
that means they probably are doing agile at scale, so they will be using one kind of scaling framework or the other. So maybe they are using less, maybe they are using safe. Maybe they are using, there's another one called DAD, I think, the DAD framework for scaling, but I'm not too familiar with that one. Yeah, so they could be, it will have to be, by the time you start having a community of practice within an organization, that means you have a few Scrum Masters. And it makes sense to form a community of practice so that we can continuously bounce ideas off each other and learn from each other. Thank you very much. There's one more. Let me see. That was fantastic. Backlog refinement. Grace Shaba, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I will be with you shortly. Let me share.
Sorry, Mira, I thought I was backlog requirement.
I didn't see you. Who's backlog requirement?
Refinement, Shola.
No, that's Grace.
That's Grace.
I thought I had poker planning and backlog.
No, I couldn't have given you two.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't have given you two. I'm just trying to check. I'm sure it was Grace. It was Grace for sure.
Okay.
So what did you prepare for, Shola?
I prepared for both actually.
There's no knowledge loss. You learned something by by researching. Okay, so
I'll just focus on product planning then.
So you will do the other one. You did poker. Okay, no problem. But I haven't seen your slides though. But let Grace finish.
Oh, I sent it last week. Before.
Okay, I'll check again.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll check again. Okay, please, Grace, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll be talking about backlog refinement. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So this comes from the product backlog, obviously. So that's why I started from there. The product backlog is the identified list of requirements or features of a product. And the list is obtained by the product owner from requirements gathering sessions from customer. The list of requirements is derived from the perceived interactions of the different groups of actors with the product, referred to as use cases, which means, obviously, when you have a product, you would have multiple users of that product. So the backlog takes that into consideration, and the stories are for all the use cases. The list is very high level and known as epics. The product backlog can be high level so that, and they're known as epics because they're made up of complex stories of planned interactions with the product. This high level list is presented to the team at a kickoff meeting or even earlier, perhaps when the customers has approached the company and there's been a meeting. Obviously, the product owner will have prepared some sort of list just to see what the team thinks of what they're about to design or to develop. Next slide, please. So this backlog is usually prioritized. The product owner has the duty of prioritizing the backlog because they are in contact with the customer. Therefore, they kind of know what the customer would like to prioritize. I think if we think back on our own experience here, when we built a website, the product owner would actually say, this is what we're going to do next. So, and that's because obviously, if it was a real life situation, they would have spoken to the customer to say, so what do you want done next? And then would select something from the product backlog. This helps the Scrum team to deliver value to the customer at each iteration of the sprint in accordance with customer needs or preferences. So a backlog refinement happens before a sprint. Can I have the next slide, please? Why do we do refinement? It's also known as grooming, by the way. And why do we need it? Refinement creates all actions that will lead to a desired outcome. Refinement enables small stories to be created that aggregate into an epic. It enables the developer to code single actions that aggregate into the fulfillment of a desired outcome when interacting with the product or website. So it attempts to break down the stories so that the developers can understand it very clearly, no ambiguity. I think we all listened to Tunde's presentation where he talked about invest. And this is actually the goal of the product refinement. It enables a story to be sized accurately, because obviously if there's any ambiguity or you do not actually understand what the story is trying to say, then you will not be able to size it. The refinement enables the testing team to test for each action that leads to the desired result. So it's the same, it's part of that invest. The story is independent, the story is negotiable, the story is, what's V? Valuable. The story is estimatable. Yes, you can estimate it. You can size it and you can test it. So that invest is very important in grooming or refinement. A well-refined story meets the definition of ready, which means when a story is small enough, whoever is going to now code it knows what they're going to write. And therefore, the story is termed as ready for work to start on it. It's a signal to the development team to start coding. A larger story will be difficult to size and accurately predict when it can be done. So this obviously, I hope I'm making it clear, because I kind of feel I'm reading and not actually talking to you, but please give me feedback when we finish. Next slide, please. So why do we do it? Continued. Epic is a big story. This slide is trying to actually illustrate what happens. So on the left-hand side, we see epics. Each epic needs to be broken down into less complex stories, which are easy to code and test. For example, when we developed the product, which was the college website, one epic was login or register, which translates to students. The user's use case was, I want to register or log in so that I can pay for my course, or browse and select courses, or check my past activities. So that is a use case for different, this lists use cases for different kind of entities. So you can want to pay for your course. It could also be one as student, sometimes you want to pay for your course. Sometimes you want to browse for what's going on, what's new. You want to read the news, you want to do whatever. And you want to select courses, you want to check your past activity. So there are many things that you want to do from that, that a student may want to do. But some of it will require login or registration on the website. Some of it may not. Use cases could also be prospective students, registered students, staff, admin, parents, and alumni. So on the right-hand side, we've got smaller stories. So first refinement says, 1, I want to interact with a web page to create a login. I remember this was actually discussed during the time that we were creating these stories. Refinement 2, I want to create a landing page so that users can create a login. Refinement 3, I want to create a username and password so that I can pay for my course. And then refinement 4 will be, I want to receive confirmation that my username and password have been created successfully. And refinement 5 will be, I want to authenticate users' username and password for security purposes. So these are the ways in which the developer will be thinking. So if you know that a small story that says, I want to interact with the web page to create a login, that means that developer knows that they have to create a landing page. Or a page. Is that a landing page or a page where somebody would now access when they want to create a login? Then I want to create a landing page so that users can create a login. So if you're the one creating that landing page, then that would be your task to create that landing page. I want to create a username and password so that I can pay for my course. That would then be the objective of a user. I want to create a username and password. I want to receive confirmation. So that follows up from 1, for example, because when you interact with a page, then you can then create a username and password. The refinement 4 could be, I want to receive confirmation. Then once you create your username and password, then you need to receive a message that says you have created a username and password successfully. So somebody knows they have to do that. Then I want to authenticate users' username and password for security purposes. And this would involve the system actually being able to accept the password that the person has created and the username as well. So it must meet certain criteria. So somebody knows that they have to do that as well. So this is to help the developers to create a thinking way of doing this, of getting this done. Next slide, please. So this is an illustration. I've said everything that I need to say. I've just created a picture that says EPIC is a complex story, is big, and then there are smaller stories that you can get. And that's the aim of a refinement or a grooming session. So you want to create smaller stories. And I just want to also add that in order to do this, the team has to make some time available. The developers have to make some time available to do this grooming. And usually it could be 1 week before the next sprint. So mid-sprint of suppose any sprint, you have to do your refinement for the next sprint so that you do not have issues when you get to that sprint and then you're not able to do the work. And this can also lead to something known as a spike, as we spoke about, because if your story is too complex, then obviously it's too big, it's not been refined properly, and then you'd have to take time out to do some sort of research that would help you to break that story down further. Next slide, please. I think it might be the last slide. Yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Any questions, please?
Fantastic. A round of applause for Grace, please. A round of applause. A round of applause, please. A round of applause. Great content. Great content. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank
Grace.
you.
Do you guys have questions? I have a couple. I have comments and I think one question.
What's the title of our paper? Backlog.
Backlog refinement.
Backlog refinement. Okay. And thank you for mentioning my name. That means I must have done a good job.
Of course, everybody has done a good job. See, I don't know why you keep feeling you didn't do well. You did well. It was just your slides.
Yes.
Just like Henry's slide too. There were some slides that were too cluttered. That was the issue you had with your presentation.
Yeah, but it's related.
Yes, of course. And because of that, you had some, you made it difficult on yourself. Just like Henry also made it difficult on himself for those slides that were cluttered. That's all. Everybody has done a great job.
That was a fantastic presentation, Sylvia. Well done.
Grace, that was
Grace, rather.
Yeah, fantastic. I like the fact that you mentioned Spike, because that is exactly some of the things we are trying to see, okay, are there any stories there we don't understand? Because we don't want those surprises during sprint planning.
Yeah.
We don't want those surprises. We want to start our sprint planning, then we are realizing, oh my God, this story is too big. Oh my God, we need to do exploration on this story. No, we want to make sure that has been known and that we have started working on it or we have worked on it, okay? Grooming, even Mr. T called me one day to say, Mary, please, what is the difference between grooming and backlog refinement? We don't use the word grooming anymore because it's now a bad word because of all this grooming and all that. So it's no longer, it used to be called backlog grooming, but it has now changed to backlog refinement, okay? I also like the fact that you brought up use case, because you see, during sprint planning, during backlog refinement, you will start elaborating on your epics. Like Grace said, you have epics on this backlog. You are now trying to elaborate and break them further to stories. In the process of doing that, you are probably drawing diagrams. You are drawing use case diagrams, or you are writing use case description, or you are looking at data flow diagram to say, okay, for this feature, we are going to capture data here. This data is going to flow here. When it gets here, we have to make a decision. If it is yes, this is what we do. If it is no, this is what we do. All those business analysis kind of activities will be going on. That is why you have a BA in the team. That is why you need business analysis skills in the team. Because like Grace was demonstrating, we want to be able to look at these stories from the perspective of the developer, of the tester, of the user interface, and that is why we are all at this meeting. So that we will not be making decisions that the user interface person cannot work with. We will not be taking decisions that the database expert in the team will be saying, why did you people do that? Don't you know that we have to do entity this, entity that? That is why they have to be there, so that they can come and talk their database language and make sure that we are all synchronized in what needs to be done in order for us to get our stories to ready. Okay, we are making progress. What else did I put down here? Use case. Yeah, and that's it for me. I like the fact that you talked about the use case. Then the stories, you went a little deeper. So for people who did not understand stories, you really broke that down. But though I felt you spent too much time there. I felt you spent, because the focus was more on the process for backlog refinement, not so much stories. But that would have been extremely useful if you were talking about user stories specifically, but it was great that you touched it. But I just felt you stayed too long in the description of the user stories. But it was good that you touched on it, because the whole idea is we are trying to elaborate on our stories, okay? So for me, that is a fantastic presentation. Great flow. I like the flow. Fantastic. Well done. Thank you very much. Anybody has a question?
Well, sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, Malay.
I'm gate crashing again today. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Hi, everyone. Grace, that was a really brilliant presentation. And what's the other person's name again before that did the presentation?
Henry.
I came in when you were just wrapping up.
Okay.
You know, but
Franca too. Franca and Henry.
Yeah, I was Franca's one. So Franca, yours was really, really good. Yeah. And thank you guys. You're doing very, very well. I just wanted to add a little bit to Grace's one.
Yeah.
For example, in the case whereby I think somebody talked about scaling up.
Yeah.
Scaling up, in the process of scaling up, you'll have different agile teams. So when you're doing backlog refinement, you'll have like farms or little groups of those people who comes from different Scrum groups to actually discuss like what you discuss on the product backlog issues. So on your stories, so they will sit down and actually break down the stories further.
Especially if there are dependencies. Especially
exactly.
when there are
if there are dependencies, they will call all of them.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Male. Because remember, when we talked about large scale Scrum, you could have a few teams working from a backlog. So when they are doing the backlog refinement, they may need to coordinate, especially in a large scale agile environment. So that coordination might be necessary. And then another reason you do backlog refinement anyway is to identify those things. Do we have dependencies? Yes, exactly. So that we can start having that, those conversations already. We are not waiting till sprint planning. Any other contribution? That was fantastic. Let me look for Shola's. Shola, you said you sent it to me when?
That was last week.
You emailed it to me, right?
On Friday before.
Shola, okay, I'm looking for it. Just give me a sec.
The day before.
Everybody, I'm going to collate all the slides. I'm going to send, put it all together when everybody is done. I don't know if Felicia and Deji and Donald will present. If they do, I'll just bundle everything together in an email and send it to everybody. Because you are going to be doing things like this. Henry, for example.
Everybody includes me, right?
Say that again.
And that everybody includes me, right?
Of course. Henry, for example, is prepared. Henry, tell us, what are you preparing to do? Tell us while I'm looking for Shola's slides.
Or should I send it again?
Please do. I think that will save us.
Okay.
Send it
okay.
Henry, tell us what you are trying to do with your team in terms of presentation.
I'm having a presentation tomorrow because I realized that a lot of them in my team do not even know what they call Scrum, even though they claim to be agile. They have no knowledge of Scrum. So I'm going back to the basic. I want to teach them about agile tomorrow and some elements of Scrum and all that, because we're having our first PI planning in about 3 weeks. And if they know nothing about Scrum or agile, I wonder how they're going to perform when we start talking about SAFe. So I'm teaching them tomorrow Scrum. So I've been in contact with Miss Mary. We've put some slides together that will help me in my presentation tomorrow. To talk to the team to help them, because actually we even use the word grooming in our lesson, so we have to change that to backlog.
No, on a more serious note, Mary, that word grooming was used throughout the exam.
Because they have not changed it. Because they have not changed. The most important thing is that you know that
I know what is what. I know it means refinement. Yeah.
But generally, in the agile community, they don't like to use it anymore. In the agile community, yes. So I'm trying to share now.
Sorry, Henry, which environment are you working with now?
I'm working as a Scrum Master in a health insurance company.
Oh, okay.
So we're working on, it's a cloud-based team. You're working on cloud infrastructure, and they're using so many terms that I've never heard in my life. But I'm getting
a new environment for you, or a totally new environment for you, or
totally new environment for me.
Wow.
Exactly. And you will learn. Don't worry, you will learn.
From the clinic to
you will learn. You'll be amazed how excited.
And Henry, are you one of the lucky ones that have got a job already?
Yeah, he got a job.
You felicitate.
Yeah, he's been about 3 for 1 week.
Wow, that's nice. That's really good.
Yeah. Okay, so can you see my screen now, Shola?
Not yet.
Okay, let me share again. Stop sharing and then share again. I'm sharing it again. You should see it now.
Okay, yes. Just
cool. Okay, the floor is all yours, and you're the last one we're taking for today.
Last man standing. Okay, good evening, everyone. You're welcome to this presentation. Like I said, I thought I was presenting 2 topics. So I had POCA planning and backlog refinement. But since Grace has done justice to, the other bit, I'll just stick to the POCA plan. Okay, so if we move to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Okay, so when we talk about POCA planning, it's one of the estimation methods used in the agile environment. And basically, before I delve into what POCA planning really is, let's have a background of what estimation actually involves. So I've got in here that it quantifies the efforts necessary to carry out a given development task. So in other words, we're saying we want to determine how much work we're going to be, putting into each sprint in terms of the tasks and, the stories. But before I go on, I want to give a simple analogy of what estimation actually, involves. We use it in our everyday lives. For instance, if you take an example of maybe 3 friends, that were invited for a party based in Lagos, probably somewhere in Ekiti State in Nigeria. And, they were invited for a wedding of their friend. And it gave them the information, okay, Ekiti is about 300 kilometers away from Lagos, and the roads, they are quite hilly. Okay, and one of the 3 friends, let's say Tade, says, okay, I've been to Ekiti once. I used to, drive down there, and I know the area. Normally it takes me about, 3 hours to get to Ekiti from Lagos. And then the other person, Jimmy, for instance, says, okay, I've never been to Ekiti. I don't know the area. So I'm guessing if I'm going to be driving, it's going to take me, about maybe 5 hours or so. And then the last person, Olu, says, I've not been to Ekiti, but I'm used to hilly, roads and areas. For me, getting there, probably I'll spend maybe, about 3.5 hours. I'm used to going to, hilly areas. Now, basically what these people are trying to do is just basically trying to estimate, how long it will take them to get to Ekiti based on the information they've been given, about 300 kilometers away, and it's a hilly area. So this is exactly what it means, to estimate a story in Scrum. So nothing different, you understand? So if you go back to the slides, please. So yeah, so we're saying, so who does the estimation, and then when does it occur in Scrum environment? Yeah, agile estimation is a team sport, so everybody is involved, from the Scrum Master, the designers, the developers, everyone is involved. So the idea is to bring everybody together and get their own perspective, on the product and the work required to deliver a story. We know that, our customers, they're always looking at, how soon can you deliver, we want this thing now, we want this thing now. But doing a proper estimation gives the development team and the team as a whole idea of, how much work will be required to get those things done. So the second point says, the product owner cannot commit to deliver a feature without, first of all, integrating or discussing with the development team. So product owner cannot say, okay, this will be done so and so time, until it has an idea or a feedback from, the team on how long it's going to take. And then, yeah, so the estimation is done during sprint planning meetings. So yeah, so we can, estimate using hours, days, or story points for our estimation. And then when should estimation happen? So we've put down here, so estimation should be done in 2 levels, at the story level and then at the task level. At the story level, in terms of, the product owner coming out to say, okay, this is what we need to do. Okay, gives a brief to the team to say this is what has to be accomplished. And then at the task level, that's when the team actually breaks the story down into tasks. and then each task is taken, and estimated. For best results, so both should occur together. So probably in a situation where we have the product owner, in that meeting, and all the development team members as well in that meeting. So if there's something that's not clear, the product owner, can easily come in to say, okay, this is what and what is meant by this and this. And then, like we said, at times it's also possible, not to have the product owner present, especially at the task level, so that it doesn't pressurize the team into saying, okay, you must do this and that before so and so time. So if we move to the next slide, please. Okay, in the Scrum framework, we have many estimation techniques. There is no particular one, that has been prescribed. So it depends on the environment and understanding of the team members. So anyone can be adapted. So like I've put it in the second point, so accurate estimates are on the basis of sound product planning, and there are many techniques as well. So which, I've listed in that slide. Now, for the purpose of POCA planning, the Fibonacci sequence is used. So I've put there, POCA planning is Fibonacci. Numbers are on POCA cards, and every member has their own deck. So relative sizing is done using the Fibonacci series, which we covered, in the class. And sizing is determined by development team using reference stories as a basis. Okay, move to the next slide, please. So what exactly is POCA planning? I mean, planning POCA. So it's saying here that planning POCA is a consensus-based technique. So everybody needs to agree, you understand, when using this planning estimation method. So it's used for estimating, mostly used to estimate effort or relative size of user stories in Scrum. It combines three, techniques: the wideband, Delphi, analogous estimation, and the estimation using WBS. Now, when using planning POCA, the idea is to minimize influence from other, from participants in the team, so that we can get a more accurate result. So, like I said earlier, the product owner, lays down the story and describe the features of what each story, is meant to achieve, and then leaves it to the development team to estimate. Next slide, please. So how do we play this game? So basically, two things are required. So you have your decks of cards, and then, like I said, obviously we have information from the product owner. So what happens is the product owner presents a story to be estimated, and then each Scrum team. So we are discussing a story. So the product owner says, or rather the Scrum Master says, okay, what size or what point are you giving this story? So what happens is each team chooses a card that represents what they feel, the estimation should be. So it could be a 3, a 5, or what have you. So once everybody has chosen their cards, the selection is revealed for everybody to see. But the important point is that before that, we ensure that, they don't get to see what is going on behind, the cards that has been chosen. So everybody selects privately and then presents his card, places his card privately on the table. And then, so if, for instance, we have somebody, picking a 2, and then somebody picking a 5, they would have to come up, and then probably the majority comes up with a 3, for instance. So those picking the 2 and the 5 would have to, explain why they have chosen, those numbers. So it gives room for openness and for people to express, their views. So because we don't want to suppress, or influence the view of our team members. And then this process goes on, at most 3 times until we come to, a consensus, a particular figure. If you go on, next slide. So let's look at these guides. What are the guides detecting this game? So, like I said, product owner must clearly explain the story. The team members must be sure they understand the story. This is very key, because if you don't understand, there's tendency that you might want to follow the pack. And then, like I said, each member picks the size of the story. They keep the cards to themselves so that's not to influence others. And like I said, if you have discrepancies, between the figures, especially huge ones, we want to provoke conversations. So why have you chosen this figure? I mean, that's so different from the others. So like I said, the person probably has worked on that story before, probably at a previous assignment, and says, okay, based on my experience, I've been in this environment before. I know, this story is going to take so much effort. So, and then, like I said, after 3 attempts, because it's not infinite, we want to come, to a consensus at the least possible time. So the highest number should be adopted as it's safer to overestimate than underestimate. And then we don't work with averages when we do planning poker. We must agree at a particular figure. Now, if there's a huge difference between one estimate and the rest, it might trigger us saying, okay, let's park this story for now. Probably we'll need to do more investigation or make more research. Let's park it for now, then we'll revisit it later. You understand? So that's if there are huge differences. Probably somebody picks up a 3 and then somebody picks up maybe a 12 or 15, for instance. So that's a huge difference. It has to be really properly investigated. So the next slide, please. So what are the benefits of planning poker? Like I said, each member gets to participate. And then we don't want any planning, any planting, group thinking amongst the members. Additionally, planning poker fosters a deep discussion of the reasons for various time estimates. The approach is iterative, and it's a fun way to estimate time because it encourages creativity, competitive spirit, and commitment to the team's tasks. And then finally, when using planning poker, the team more or less automatically comes to a common understanding of the definition of done. So once we are agreed finally to say, okay, this is the amount of effort that's needed for a task, everybody comes to that understanding. Yes, okay, fine, this is what is needed and this is what we are going for. So it makes understanding of that particular task better, so that once it's completed, we know that yes, this is done and can go, can be deployed or whatever. Next slide, please. Then obviously there are disadvantages of planning poker. One I've come across, so I've listed a few here. The first one is difficult to implement in distributed projects. So probably team member is in one city or one country, the others are in another country. So, having that game played becomes a challenge. But in this era of, COVID-19, obviously companies have found a way, to bring people together rather than physically. So they don't have to be in the same room. So we have, for instance, like web-based tools that can be used when working with groups that are distributed. And then the other one is results from planning poker exercises can also be a little too hard to handle. So it says if it transpires that you need more time than the client has anticipated, you may need to change your priorities project plan. So basically what this is saying is, if, for instance, we're saying a task will take us so much effort, and then the client is putting pressure on us to deliver on time, we might have, the tendency to change our priorities with the project plan. And any change in priorities requires buy-in from the client as well. So, and then finally, there's always a danger that you believe you have consensus when all you really have is insufficient information to make an accurate assessment. So yeah, like we said, we've come to a consensus based on the facts that we have on the table. But is this enough information, or does it mean that it's necessarily, that assessment is necessarily accurate? No, it doesn't. You might start the task and then realize that, oh, other factors are coming in, once we've defined, how much effort. So that's one of the dangers in using planning POCA. But in conclusion, yeah, it's extremely helpful and useful if carried out, correctly. So it's saying, if we have stories broken down into smaller, smaller parts, it makes planning POCA makes it easier to estimate. So the smaller the task, the smaller the task is broken down, the easier for us to estimate using planning POCA method. And I believe that's the end of my presentation. Yeah, so this is on product backlog, which I said, I've had to forgo, as Grace has already done justice. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Please, round of applause for Shola on a great presentation too. Great content I'm seeing here, great content. Shola, are you sure you are not already working as a Scrum Master?
I want to be like Henry very soon.
Don't we? Even me, the coach, I'm jobless. Anyway, that was a fantastic presentation. I like the way you said that we do it all the time. We do it all the time. We are constantly doing relative estimation. Oh, it will take me 10 minutes to go there. Oh, if I branch that place also, maybe that's going to be 20 minutes. We are constantly estimating. There was something you said, though. You said it happens during sprint planning. It also happens during backlog refinement. Okay. I don't recall you mentioning that. Okay. It also happens we also estimate during our backlog refinement, okay? And as you guys can see, there are different ways of estimating, but relative sizing it may have its disadvantages, but is the easiest way to go. And now that we are working in a distributed fashion, there are tools to use for, POCA planning. But I will tell you this much, a lot of people are not using it. Even the cards, a lot of people are not using it. But when we were in face-to-face scenario, people use the cards, okay? But now the tool, I feel the tool has its own overhead. Even I don't like using the tool. And I know a lot of teams will not use it. So, but don't let it worry you too much. I know we talk about group thinking, that, we try to avoid group thinking. You will find that even the teams today, they want to make sure they estimate properly so that they have a consistent velocity and that they have predictability, because it is less stress for them to have that consistency. It means less stress for them. So even when they are not using the cards, don't force too much about it, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, okay, Grace, no problem, Grace. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for a fantastic presentation. Thank you. So that is the case. So thank you very much, Shola. Anybody else has a question for Shola?
I was just going to, it's not a question really, maybe it's a question to you, not necessarily to Shola. Estimation takes place during the second part of the sprint planning.
No, the first part. The estimation of the stories takes place in the first part. Sprint planning has two parts.
Yes.
Because it is based on our estimation that will determine how much work we can take from the product owner.
The product is the product owner expected to be part of estimating stories. The product owner.
Yes, the product owner is there. The product owner, that first part, the product owner is everybody is there. The product owner is
I know
there.
the second part is meant for the development.
Exactly. The first part is everybody. Product owner, Scrum Master, development team. The second part is strictly the development team. That is where they are now going into more detail. So, and that is why on Jira, you have task and subtask. So the development team, they are going into more detail of the story, but they've already had a proper conversation in terms of, you know, these are the things we need to do. So because of that, this story is 5, because they need to size it in that first part, because they need to make sure they are able to take stories up to their velocity. That is why the product owner is involved. So take, for example, their velocity is 40. They now get to 48. Okay, let me give you this scenario. They now get to, sorry, their velocity is 40, they now get to 38.
Yeah.
They now get to 38. They've taken stories summing up to 38. If at that point, the product owner now says, oh, I have one more story, and then his story is 5. If they take that story, it will take them to 43. They may reject at that point. In fact, they should reject at that point to say, no, that will take us above our velocity. However, if the product owner sees that, okay, their velocity is 40, they have taken 38 stories, he may now look for a small story that can fit into that 2 points. Do you see what I'm trying to get at here? Exactly. So maybe there are 2 small stories that are 1 point. He may add it to the story as part of that.
So in other words, estimation continues in the second part of the sprint planning meeting.
The breaking down continues. Breaking down into tasks and subtasks continues in the second one. They've already estimated, they have committed to their velocity. They have committed to their velocity. They have collected stories that amount to their velocity, and now the product owner says, bye-bye, I'm available. Because you see, when they are breaking down the stories into tasks and subtasks, they may have questions for the product owner. That is why we always say we don't want a proxy product owner. We want a product owner that is available. Because in as much as we've done that first part, by the time we now go into real detailed elaboration, we may need more help from the product owner. Because remember, it is the product owner that understands the product.
Yeah, they understand this. Yeah.
So we may need more clarification.
More clarification.
Sorry, Barry.
Yeah.
Is it ethically right, assuming the product owner knows about, software development and all that, is it ethically right for him to be part of that second part of the?
Yes, that's why I said he's available. They may need him.
Okay.
They may need. That's why I said he's available. It is predominantly for the team to organize themselves and break that work down and organize themselves to start the sprint. But guess what? While they are elaborating in detail, they may need contribution from the product owner. They are trying to build a product, and the product owner is the expert on the product.
The voice of the
so there's nothing unethical about it.
In terms of probably during the poker planning process, in terms of probably the product owner trying to influence.
Oh, no. The product owner shouldn't influence. No, it's the development team that is sizing even the Scrum Master is not sizing. It's the development team that is sizing. But the product owner, based on elaboration, can help them better understand so they can size better.
Size better,
yeah. Not that he should influence them, no. But elaboration to understand.
Okay.
And then, of course, the team are working from sprint to sprint, and over time, they will have a velocity. So when they have their velocity, they are using velocity as a guide. But when they start, I mean, you saw the video that I shared with you, the Arizona kickoff. Yeah. There's no velocity. We just use guesswork. They will use their own experience to say, you know what, we should be able to finish this in about 2 weeks based on their experience. And we now use that. But guess what? They committed to 25, but they finished 26. So somewhere along the line, they added another story. They added another. And when you look at your chart, you will see it in the chart. You will see that your burn down was going like this, and all of a sudden your chart went up because you added story. It will be captured in your chart. It will be captured in the chart. Okay. Okay, Felicia is here. I didn't realize you were here. Do you want to present? Are you guys happy to wait for another 10 minutes? Felicia, have you sent it to me?
Yes, I have.
Okay, when? Just now?
Maybe like 10 minutes ago.
Okay. Okay, you should have sent me a message. I didn't know. I didn't even know you were here. Okay, Felicia, can you do this in 10 minutes?
Dodi's not
sure.
here.
Okay, are you guys happy to wait?
He's not here.
Oh, you are here. Ah.
I've been here from the start too.
Oh,
Grace has dropped off.
You were quiet.
Taking it all in.
Okay.
Deji's not here. So if you guys don't mind, let us hear from Felicia. I'm just downloading her slides, please. Let's get that.
Let's go for it.
I'm done with. Yes, I'm opening it now. Yes, and then let me share my screen. Thank you very much, Shola. That was fantastic. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Scrum Masters everywhere. Okay, so I'm sharing now, Felicia. Can you see it?
Yep, I can.
Okay, over to you then.
Okay, so I'm going to, thanks everyone for giving me the opportunity to do this at a late time. I've been on the road. I'm going to try to keep it under 10 minutes. So my topic was product backlog as an artifact. And I'm just going to look at what it is, why do we do it, when do we do it, and how do we do it. So I'm going to start off by looking at what is an artifact. Just literal meaning here says that it's a word that originated from the Latin root, translating to work of art. So basically what that means is that it's something that is made. It is made by a human being or by someone. It can be a tool or a work of art. So a tool that solves the problem or a work of art that inspires something. And so if we then go further to look at what exactly is the product backlog designed to do, it is designed to answer questions on what is the most important thing to build next for a product. We all realize or would agree that organizations or people will have unlimited wants, but there's always limited resources. And this is where the need for the product backlog comes in, because it's a tool that allows us to be able to prioritize what we need to do at every point in time. I'm going to just quickly skip back to this one, to the first slide, where it talks about artifacts in Scrum. There are three major ones. So the product backlog is one of them. And then there's also the sprint backlog and the product increment. The product backlog and the sprint backlog are both combined to look at work to be done. And the product increment is looking at work, the portion that is already done. So that's just one simple thing to note there. So going back to the definition of what the product backlog is and what it's trying to achieve, I referred to the Scrum Guide, and it said that it's an ordered list of everything that is known to be needed in the product. It is a single source of requirement for any changes to be made on the product. It is owned and managed by the product owner in terms of the content availability and ordering of it. It is never complete, so its dynamics is always evolving. And I guess the major thing to note there is to allow for changes to ensure that the product remains relevant, competitive, and useful to the organization or to the client, as the case may be. The product owner and the development team usually at the back end will work on refining that log. And by refinement, we mean adding in details, estimates, or ordering. So in summary, revising and reviewing that log to ensure that it remains fluid in a way that is always relevant. So I thought, let's take a look at what it looks like. So this is a very simple picture. It's not very clear, but basically it shows that it is a list that if you look to the left, let's say on the time horizon, is a list that shows what is planned, what will be refined, and what goes into the future. And then when we look to the right and we talk about granularity, it then starts looking at what's printable now, what's actionable now, and what are the intentions of the product or the project. At the end of the day, the other thing to note also is that the product backlog is one tool or the artifact that actually helps us maintain the value of Scrum in terms of transparency. Scrum thrives on transparency, and the product backlog upholds this value. There are two metaphors or analogy that I would like to bring up here. So one is called the tea leaf effect, and the other is called trimming the tail. And the simple thing to note there is, if you think about the tea leaf effect, this just gives us a bit of background information and clarity in our mind as we think of the product backlog as an artifact. So when you think about the tea leaf effect, if you dip a tea bag into a cup of hot water, and somehow the bag opens up and the leaves are scattering everywhere, there's a bit of unclarity or cloudness that goes on there, because the tea leaves are just kind of like circulating everywhere. But the backlog, remember, it's the list where we're refining or ordering things that we want to get done now. So think about those tea leaves in a way that at the end of the day, the product backlog, when the water gets stirred, the tea leaves are going everywhere, but the product backlogs comes to ensure that it settles, and then we're clearly seeing exactly what we need to do in that environment. And then also the other thing to note is something that was described by a guy called Alistair Cockburn on trimming the tail. And this also goes back to just ensuring that the backlog is as simple and clear as possible, and that we're not building low value ideas, that we're ensuring that the gains are considerable and are relevant at every point in time. And what I then did on this last slide was just to summarize what the best practices as it relates to product backlog and even refinement is. So a few points that I noted as I researched the topic is, one, is making it formal right or wrong. There is no single right way to incorporate product backlog refinement into a sprint. It can be daily, it can be weekly, it can be once in the lifetime of the sprint. It doesn't really matter as long as the refinement is accomplished. The best practice also is that not more than 10% of the capacity of the development team during the sprint should be spent on product backlog defining or refinement. If made formal, it typically occurs in the cadence within the sprint as part of the inspect and adapt process during the flow of work within the Scrum timeline. So it can be done during the sprint retrospective. Whatever works best, the Scrum Master will decide as the teams are structured. And then I go into best practices as it relates involvement. From most of the things that I read, it came clear that with product backlog, it's better to just involve only who needs to be involved. We all think of Scrum as self-organizing, but with product backlog and its refinement in general, this is not always true. The Scrum Master can easily facilitate conversations and delegate as needed with the DevOps team or the product owner or whoever needs to be involved. And I think this kind of like helps to streamline the process of managing the product backlog better. It's also helpful to set boundaries around what needs to be done. This, if you think about the definition of ready, it's a short checklist of things that the Scrum team should do before a product backlog item is brought into a sprint. It is helpful to set boundaries around what needs to be done so that there is clarity and we're not wasting time doing what we don't need to do. And then on estimation serves two purposes. One is for forecasting and the other is for the release planning. And the later on we do the estimation, the more accurate it will be. So this also I found as a best practice as I read across on the topic. The second to last thing I would look at is speed. So, I mean, from what I gathered, stick with 1 or 2 sprint worth of ready items. So don't make your product backlog too far into the future, because things can always change. And that's what Agile is all about, right? And then finally, the size, keeping the product backlog small to avoid waste. A good product owner will aim to ensure that the product backlog is small, to reduce waste. Items should be archived or deleted from the backlog when they're no longer needed. I try to just kind of like speak very fast. So if you have any questions, let me know. Am I under 10 minutes, Mary?
Thank you so much, Felicia. That was fantastic. Let me stop sharing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was great. That was a good presentation. And I can see that you have all done a lot of research here. Amazing research. Henry, can you already see some materials to use? Henry, can you already see some materials to use?
Yes, I can see lots of materials here.
Exactly. And that's it. Thank you very much, Felicia. I like the fact that
you
talked about the 10% time. Okay.
Henry, if you use my slide, you must pay.
I like the fact that Felicia talked about the 10% time. So during our sprint is when we are doing backlog refinement. So how much of our time do we want to allocate to this? About 10%, maximum maybe 15, especially if it's an erratic environment. Remember, when they give you these figures, it is a guide. If you are in an environment that is crazy, you may need to do more than one refinement. Trust me. If you are in a really, really crazy environment, do not be surprised if you see that they are doing some refinements. But usually one is common, okay? Because all these things that the Scrum Guide is telling us is exactly that. It is a guide.
Mm-hmm.
It is a guide. So when you now find yourself in a particular context, common sense also will be applied.
Yeah.
It won't be, this is what the Scrum Guide said. No, you will take the environment, the context into account. So it could be 10%, it could be a little bit more. It is important that the product backlog does not become a dumping site. It is so important because you'll be, look, I always give this example. Imagine you are going out and your wardrobe is a mess. It will take you time to decide what to wear or find what to wear. You will waste time. But if you are a neat and orderly person, you just open your wardrobe, I'm wearing that blue suit or that red dress. It becomes easier to make a choice because you have arranged things properly. It is the same logic. If your backlog is a mess as a product owner, so that is why as a Scrum Master, you come in, you want to make sure you are helping the product owner to really tidy up that backlog, to really think of prioritization. And at the epic level, you remember Grace did presentation, she was talking about epics. Make sure that the epics first and foremost have been prioritized with must have, should have, could have, won't have for now. So you start by prioritizing the big epics, okay? And then the ones that are the must-haves will be the ones at the top, and those are the ones you are breaking up, okay? Fantastic presentation. Is there anything else I noted? Late estimation. You said something about the work you are doing will add more value when you do it much later. So quite frankly, you are doing your backlog refinement. Take, for example, you have a 2-week sprint. You are probably doing your backlog refinement on the Monday or the Tuesday of the second week. Whatever works for the team. Again, there's no hard and fast rule that it has to be dead in the middle. The team will figure out what works for them. As a Scrum Master, don't go and impose. Always look at the context because you want to be a pragmatic agilist, not a dogmatic agilist, okay?
But in a situation, I'm sorry, Mary, I'm sorry. In a situation where the development team are still busy working on their codes and what have you, the refinement will now have to be the job of the Scrum Master and the
No. It is in their schedule. They'll take time out. It's part of their week. They already know they have those meetings.
Have you forgotten that? It's always planned, and there is like a scheduled meeting for it.
Have you forgotten? Have you forgotten that they have recurring meetings? It's already as part of their routine.
So it's part of the cadence,
It's part of their cadence that on so day we have backlog refinement. On so day we have sprint planning.
But we shouldn't forget the fact that it's not a ceremony. So
it's not a ceremony, but it's
have to have a date
meeting
scheduled for it.
Forget whether it's a ceremony or it's a meeting. It is something that needs to happen during the sprint. It is a meeting. It is a session. It is it is an activity that needs to happen so
At
that
least
we are,
once.
so that we are working towards definition of ready, so that when we start our sprint planning on Monday, there are no surprises.
Okay.
We are
so best
already
practice
familiar.
is at least once. It should happen at least once.
It should happen at least once. We are familiar with the items on our product backlog. We are not seeing them for the first time when we want to do our sprint planning, okay? It also then means we spend less time with the sprint planning. It means that we're already familiar with most of these items on the product backlog, okay? So it is part of your routine as the cycle. You remember that Scrum cycle now, sprint planning, definition of ready to get items into your sprint backlog, you do your daily stand-up, you do your refinement, you do your retrospective and your sprint review. So
but is it possible, is it really possible for one to finish work on backlog as an artifact when at the beginning of a project? I mean, what I'm trying to say is that do you have to know all the requirements, put them in the backlog before you start breaking down?
No, it's a dynamic document now. It's a dynamic artifact. As you are working on something else can come in. That is why you are doing the backlog.
So it's always
refinement.
Changing, it's evolving. Yeah.
Yes.
One thing you have to, sorry, is it okay if I can come in?
Please
one thing you have to bear in mind is the product backlog is dynamic, and you have priority in terms of the BI items. So those with the highest priorities are at the top, and they are the ones you actually worked on during your refinement for the next sprint. You get them ready. So the other items that you don't really need, they are at the bottom. They have less priority.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
So that's also the job of the product owner, to keep an eye on it, to ensure that it remains relevant, right, at every point in time.
Yeah.
You are also using Moscow to say what are the must-haves. We are going to consider. We can't be working on should have when you have must-haves.
Must-have, okay.
That will not make sense. That is why we do that high-level prioritization first with Moscow. What are the must-haves? That is where we are going to put our effort. So all the epics that are must-haves are the ones we're going to be breaking down, okay? And working through them based on our roadmap. Okay. Based on our roadmap, for sure. We are not just working out of our head. We are working based on our roadmaps, but we are also working based on prioritization
and the sprints goal.
Must-haves. And when we are talking about must-haves, things that need to go out quickly because they add value, because the customers are waiting for it, or because of compliance, it can be anything. You can imagine if we don't do something to do with GDPR and they are going to fine us 20 million. Will that not become a priority for you as a business? Otherwise, you're going to pay 20 million fine or whatever the fine may be. So things like that. So must-haves are at the top. Fantastic, Felicia. Any other question or comment? Otherwise, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. And one more thing, stakeholders. During the backlog refinement, do not be surprised if because a new demand has come in, an external stakeholder is there, depending on the nature of the organization, depending on what they want to achieve. Because remember, this is a product for somebody. It could be an internal stakeholder, it could be an external stakeholder, okay? And they are coming to maybe give you, explain a new requirement. Do not be surprised if that happens. There's nothing wrong with that. After all, you are building the product for them, right? You are building the product for them. So maybe they are coming to tell you what has just happened in their organization. This will mostly happen in small organizations. So they are coming to tell you, oh, there's a new development in our organization. We now need this, we need this, we need that. And then he comes and does maybe a small, meeting with them to elaborate. You can call him in. So if you feel this is something that can fit into your backlog refinement session, you can invite them during the backlog refinement session. Or if you think it's going to be an extensive thing, it can be an entirely new meeting where you now capture what they have to say and then bring it into your backlog, and then you, the product owner, now discuss it with the team. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Okay, cool. Okay. So you see, I'm sure by now you are thinking, there are actually some things also that is common sense, that even if we didn't cover it here, based on what you know, and based on the context, you will use the experience you have to look for the best way. Because you see, yes, there are some things you will just know the right thing to do and how to go about it, because you are pragmatic, because you know that you are not there to impose. You will now be asking questions. You will now be facilitating the team. what are you trying to achieve? What will happen if we don't do this? What will happen if we don't do that? So depending on what is happening and based on the knowledge you now have, you will know what questions to ask and you will know the kind of guidance to give. And of course, for the first few months that you are working as a Scrum Master, I'm here for you to bounce ideas off. Okay, so no shaking at all. I just want to start working actively now on the other CVs. So when we meet next week, we are going to cover Kanban. We will cover Kanban on Saturday. Then by Sunday, we will start looking at Confluence and Jira. Confluence and Jira on Sunday, maybe even Saturday, because Kanban, there isn't much to do with Kanban. Kanban is very straightforward. I can probably cover Kanban in 30 minutes. So once we do that, we'll now start looking at Confluence, okay? We look Confluence also, we can finish it that Saturday, because look, if you can use a Word document, you can use Confluence. That is the truth. I don't even have to teach you Confluence. It is something you can learn yourself. But we'll look at it. If you can use a Word document, you can use it because it is exactly the same.
Are they combined?
Yeah, Confluence and Jira is combined.
Are they combined?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, Confluence and Jira is combined. So we'll look at that we'll start looking at it next weekend. And probably meet one more time and that's it. But my focus now are CVs. I want to focus on CVs and I want and those who need to take their certification, please endeavor to do so. Mr. T just passed his own. So endeavor to do so that you can. Yes, so let's clap for him. Yes, so that you can now start putting your
congratulations
out there.
Thank
yes,
you.
So congratulations.
What is the process? What is the process for taking the exams?
And you just pay for it and get access to the e-learning and schedule the exam.
And just get it with it. Okay.
And schedule the exam. Yes.
Is it multiple choice?
Yes,
multiple choice, 100 questions.
100 questions. Mr. T, I need questions and answers from you. I want to cheat.
It is scenario based. It is scenario based. Yes.
Don't worry. If we can get through Prince 2, then this should
everybody passes.
Everybody passes. I think the pass rate is about 95% according to them.
Everybody passes. It. So I want you to put your CVs out there and start seeing, how much interest.
There are quite a lot of jobs out there.
There are jobs now, how much interest it is generating. So I really want your CVs to go out there. Dele, I've worked on your own. I think I'm going to concentrate on Shola next now. So Shola, I will book a session with you sometime this week, okay? So that is it, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll be meeting with you tomorrow.
And then me, then me.
Yeah, no, I one by one, don't worry.
I have meeting with Mary all the time.
I will start charging you people now. You just
Mary,
all right.
Mary, we've not touched.
Okay, I've got to leave now.
Stakeholders engagement or something.
Stakeholder engagement. Right. You want me to cover stakeholder engagement? You can do that yourself.
Okay, all right.
Watch a video on stakeholder. It's about
you just passed your Scrum Master.
Yeah, exactly. Racy,
I don't want to record on our wheels in an interview.
Let me tell you what you do with stakeholders.
You're still recording.
Oh, sorry. Let me tell you what you do with stakeholders. Let me record this. I'm talking about stakeholders.
Okay.
You have to identify your stakeholders because there are different levels of importance of stakeholders. Okay. Who are the stakeholders you really need to carry along? Who are the ones that only need to be informed? There are some stakeholders that are critical. If you don't carry them along, you will have problems in your environment. Okay. So, for example, there's a quadrant called RACI. Some people call it RACI, some people call it RACI. Responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. Yeah. So, which stakeholder do I need to, do I put in those quadrants? Okay. So these are the ways you deal with stakeholders. I will fish out some previous slides that I have.
In Scrum, who actually deals with the stakeholders?
Product owner. The product owner. The product owner is the voice of the customer. The product owner is the main voice of the customer. Otherwise, we will have too many chef in the kitchen, Oh, okay. So we have the product owner engaged, but that's not to say, the Scrum Master cannot talk to the product owner.
Because the Scrum Master can be asked to come and teach them.
Of course, to teach them what Scrum is all about so that they know how to engage with us, especially when they are coming to disturb the team. Especially when they are coming to disturb the team. So let me stop.
Mary,
yes.
Is there a separate training for product owner?
Of course, there is.